Welcome back to the program. In case you're just joining us, it's time for our conversation right now. Victor Lehmann is joining me at the table, Acting Chief Trade Negotiator, as well as the Director General, Nigerian Office for Trade Negotiations, NOTN. Wherever you see the acronym, that's what it means. I know we have a lot of acronyms though, but whenever you see NOTN, it means Nigerian Office for Trade Negotiations. And I have the man here with me. Welcome, Mr. Lehmann, and thanks for joining us on the program.
Yeah, thank you. Am I on?
Yes, you are. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Nancy. Thank you for inviting me.
Nice to have you here. Let's talk about this document. But before I go to the document, I wouldn't say it's a coincidence. Perhaps it's a very good coincidence that the AFTA's office is being commissioned today in Ghana.
Yes, and I should be watching it actually.
Yes, it should be. I think it's at 11 a.m. Ghanaian time.
Yeah, Ghanaian time.
So that should be 12 p.m. our time.
Nigerian time. Yeah,
Nigerian time,
yeah,
isn't
yeah.
it? So when you finish, you will still watch it. I will definitely also watch it.
Yes.
The office is being commissioned.
Yeah.
Do you think that Nigeria would have been the headquarters of AFTA? Did we play our game well? I've been following this trade negotiations even from from when the late Ambassador Osakwe, yes,
my boss.
Yes. What do you think?
First of all, I would say that Ghana at the moment doesn't have any headquarters, be it of ECOWAS or of the AU. And so therefore, it's logical and perhaps fair for them to have it there. Having said that, I would say that we missed it by the whiskers. The reason for that is not regrettable at all. The reason we missed it is because Nigeria wanted to understand the AFC, the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. They need to understand what exactly are the implications of signing the agreements. Because before then, although we were engaging, but you know, we were mostly focused on negotiating, on finalizing negotiations on the main framework agreement itself, including the 3 protocols. So it was very demanding at the time. But then stakeholders, just about a week or two before the signing of the main framework agreement itself in Kigali on the 21st of March 2018, stakeholders called for the need to understand the agreement, the component of the agreement, what the impact that it would have on our markets, the impact it would have on our economy, the impact it would have on our jobs, the impact it would have on our MSMEs as well as infant industries. All of these things, these were valid points. And so Mr. President, in his wisdom, then asked that we should go on a 6th geopolitical consultation to ensure that Nigerians understand. Because the agreement, as you know, is not about me and it's not about me. It's not about, because I'm a government servant. I'm a public servant. So, and I don't have any business. So those who would actually engage with the AFCFTA, what I mean by engaging is that those who would trade under the AFCFTA are those that need to understand the implication of this. And so at the time that we now go around, this was when the bidding for the AFCFTA Secretariat opened up. And so, but I would say something. It doesn't seem as if we've missed out on anything, because the most important thing is to ensure that you're market ready, that you have the offensive and defensive mechanism that you would deploy at the starting of trade under the AFCFTA. So I think Nigeria seems adequately ready now to engage with the AFCFTA, even though there are still a whole lot of things that we need to do in terms of hard and soft infrastructure, in terms of being competitive enough, in terms of ensuring that our ports work in full capacity, in terms of ensuring that we address non-tariff barriers, in terms of ensuring that we deal with standards, with quality and specification requirements, in terms of also making sure that our borders are functioning properly. in terms of also ensuring that MSMEs, that they are well prepared to take part, to engage with the AFCFTA. What I mean well prepared, that they have the resources they need, they have access to resources, and that there is inclusivity in relation to finance and credit, that the issue of collaterals would be addressed for MSMEs, because in the first place, they are very small businesses. They don't have what to collateralize. They don't have that. So for banks to then ask them to give them collaterals, it doesn't seem, I would, excuse me the word, doesn't seem logical and helpful.
Okay,
Thank you.
Let me just halt you a bit. Let's quickly take a break, and when we come back from the break, we'll continue this conversation.
Thank you very much.
All right, let's quickly take a break. We'll be right back.
It's been a long time coming, but I don't think it could have been a better time for this legislation to be passed. In the middle of this COVID-19 pandemic, you now have legally the use of electronic signatures, the use of so many things, legally admissible. So you have that backing that whatever you're doing electronically, the meetings you're holding, the documents that you're signing electronically, they are admissible in a court of law. You print it out, you get it certified, it is as admissible as the paper copy. So that immediately puts people's minds at ease to settle down and have their virtual offices, to have that need to pay that rent, you're relieved. Things like needing to have a company secretary, needing to have an auditor, all those costs away. Declaration of compliance, all those costs away. Registering of charges drastically reduced. So these are very practical things that help the businesses to have a lesser regulatory burden. When it starts rolling out in practice, companies will see, particularly SMEs that will be looking for this succor, will see that they're able to start a business and run a business without a lot of the historical burdens of cost and time. Yes, so it's a more flexible regime.
All right, welcome back. Victor Lehmann is still with me, the Acting Chief Trade Negotiator and the Director General, Nigerian Office for Trade Negotiations. Just before the break, we were talking about the after office being commissioned today in Ghana. What do you think that, or what is Nigeria doing right now? I know that COVID-19 has slowed the process. Wamkele Kene, that's Wamkele, that's the Secretary General of AFTA. He's supposed to have resumed, I think, July 1 of this year, but because of the AFTA, what do you think, what is Nigeria doing now? Is there anything Nigeria is doing around AFTA?
COVID-19 is an unfortunate situation in 2020 that was full of expectations, great expectations. Everyone thought this was going to be, yes, this is it.
Fantastic year.
This is the year.
And it's still a fantastic year.
It's still a fantastic year.
Let's not be pessimistic. Yeah.
Okay. So, I would say that there are two sides to COVID-19. The downside is that it has slowed down a lot of things. The upside of it is that, we can actually take advantage of this situation. It has slowed down things in terms of the negotiations. It has slowed down the kickstarting of the FCFTA implementation, which was slated for the 1st of July this year, which was just last month. It has slowed down the commissioning of the office, the FCFTA Secretariat in Ghana. It has slowed down even at the WTO level in terms of we're meant to have had the MC12 in Kazakhstan in June. It has slowed down a lot of things around the world. But it has also given Nigeria a real opportunity for us to be able to put our house in order before the ratification. Because before you ratify a trade agreement such as this one, you have to be sure that you have what you are going to trade on. You don't just, we cannot just be a consuming market. We also need to enter into other markets and let them consume what we produce. So what we need to do is to put together a framework in place that allows us to, to boost or to enhance both our capacity and the capability to manufacture goods, and as well as to enhance our services export capacity and capability. Because if you're going to open up Nigerian market, then you should know that you can actually trade with other countries. You can be competitive with countries such as South Africa, with countries such as Uganda, with Kenya. And you have to also ensure that you put in place sound defense mechanism to defend your market against dumping, to defend your market against smuggling, to defend your market against other injurious trade practices. And that also includes having a trade remedy mechanism, which we have in NOTN, strengthening that up, that you're able to address, that you're able to address issues of dumping, and then you're able to take countervailing measures to ensure that is addressed. You're able to safeguard, and you're able to also investigate complaints regarding dumping, complaints regarding smuggling, that you have that capability and the capacity, which we have started building in NOTN. That department is there. Now, having said that, you also have to get stakeholders ready on what it means to go into a free trade area such as the AfCFTA. They have to understand that, nobody's going to come and give you a share of the cake. Say, Nigeria, take, this is your cake. Nigeria has got to have what it takes to grow our economy, what it takes to grow jobs, what it takes to grow GDP. Because all of this, in the end, is to ensure that Nigeria prospers. It's for Nigeria. So if we are going to go into the AfCFTA, we're not just going into AfCFTA as the biggest market in Africa. We should also be able to go into other markets, and other markets must be ready to ensure that when we come in as Nigerians, that the xenophobia that goes on in Africa, that xenophobia would be addressed and stopped, because that's key. We cannot go into AfCFTA, and then you still have xenophobia in Ghana against Nigerians, in South Africa against Nigerians, and then you're asking us to ratify the agreement. We're the biggest market.
Now, what role does a trade policy plays in all of this? Because the way we are right now...
You're right.
Yes.
Now, when you are talking about trade policy is not a standalone policy. You have to ensure that you create linkages with your trade policy. You have to look at your foreign policy direction, and you have to look at your national security. These are key. And you have to ensure that there is coherence with regards to your trade policy. There cannot be one intervention there and another one there and another one there. There would not be any form of coherence. So what you want to do with your trade policy is to say, hey, what do we need? What is our focus in Africa? What do we need to have in Africa? You need to have a benchmark. What gain are we going to have if we have a pro-South African foreign policy? For instance, what you would do in that sense is to make sure that you link your trade policy with that. In linking, you cannot just go and say, okay, it's simply, South Africans are nice guys, so we have wonderful foreign policy with them. No. If they have ShopRite here, if they have DSTV here, if they have MultiChoice here, then we've got to have equally the same amount of trade capacity and capability in South Africa. They cannot take away all the money to South Africa and then we don't get anything in return. It can't be one way. It can't just be one way directional. There has to be a reciprocity when it comes to foreign policy and trade and your national security. You also have to know that there are some key national infrastructures that foreigners are not allowed to man those infrastructures. then they are key to your national security. You have to be able to, that is why you see countries such as the US and China, they would, I'm not want to say kill, I'm using this figurative, they will kill for trade. Trade is major,
Of course,
massive.
we see what's happening between US and China.
It's massive. It's not a joke. You talk, yes, we have finance. People think there's a lot of money in finance, Minister of Finance. Yes, there is money in Minister of Finance. People look at works, yes. But my dear sister, Nancy, trade is the key. Because you need to be able to trade to have money in finance. You need to be able to trade to have jobs in the Ministry of Works. You need to be able to trade to ramp up capacity in your various sectors.
Hello YouTubers, welcome to Moneyline with Nancy TV YouTube channel. This is where we provide you with instructive business directions, processes and guidance to help you assess the right resources to fund your businesses to withstand every form of internal and external shock. You will find here awesome informative videos on business, entrepreneurship and lifestyle just to help you make informed business and financial decisions. Punch the subscribe button and let us drive you through the world of business. Please follow all our social media platforms on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and follow us for latest updates on our website. So where we are now, are we ramping up capacity? Are we ramping up what could make us competitive?
Now the reason why I said that COVID-19 it's an advantage in disguise, it's a blessing in disguise. It's now at the heat of the COVID-19 when it started, 54 countries immediately activated export restrictions. And then as time went on, it rose up to 94, almost getting close to 94, I think, export. And at the time, we had no capacity and capability in terms of PPEs. We did not even know where we would get medicines and medicaments to be able to address COVID-19. There were a lot of predictions all over the world that Africa would die in droves. These prophets of doom all over the world. So we had no capacity at all. But today, what we have done, we have Nigeria, we have discovered that, you know what? We can actually produce PPEs. So we've ramped up capacity in that area. And we also have ramped up capability. Capability, I mean, you have the capability to supply massively. Not just the capacity to produce. You have to be able to scale up and produce in the millions. You have to produce in the billions. Now, in terms of that, we've also discovered that we have capacity actually in the manufacturing of certain pharmaceutical products. And that includes chloroquine. That includes other kinds of malaria medicaments or medical essentials. We've also discovered that we can also produce, we can also produce protective garments. We've developed capacity in that. Last year, by this time, did we know that we have capacity in that? So COVID-19 somehow is a blessing. With COVID-19, what we need to do is to ensure that we ramp up the growth of our manufacturing and services sectors. We need to ensure that we somehow formalize the informal economy. What I mean by formalizing the informal economy is that because you have the informal economy, I think employs between 84 thereabout in terms
about 48% of our
GDP, then 84 in terms of employment.
Employment, yes. 96% of jobs, 84% of employment.
Yes. So you have, if you are doing that, then you have to look for a way of addressing access, inclusivity. What I mean by that, inclusiveness, I mean that those MSME operators, they have access to money. Because money is key. And that money is cheap, it's relatively affordable. And so that means if you don't have an MSME that is registered, you wouldn't be able to give them loans because you can't track them. They are not palliative, like I often said, they are good. but they're not very good sustainable-wise. They are merely interventions. And interventions will always stop at some point. And you have no way of tracking the relative advantage or the benefits of such interventions. So to that extent, therefore, there needs to be a sustainable way of addressing MSME growth in Nigeria, what they need to do. So I think what we have now, this time, the COVID-19 period, pandemic period, we have a window to make sure that we try and see how we can, now with the camera, which Mr. Sinas,
yes,
this is a big thing.
Boost.
This is a big booster for MSMEs. I tell you the truth. And one thing that I'm happy about is that we have a president that understands these things. We also have two ministers, the two substantive that understand it. The minister of my ministry is one minister that, when I met him the first time, I wasn't able to tell what is the minister. He's so simple guy. So he allows things to grow. Because you don't want to stifle people, you don't want to say, you can't say, you can't do that, you can't. But the minister I know is quite liberal and open and acceptable and allow you to just do your thing. But unfortunately, Nigeria, there are a lot of complications, complexities from different stakeholder platforms or quarters. That is understood in a country such as ours. You have those interests everywhere. But again, that sort of interest, they need to understand that when public officials are allowed to do their job, with that, and they become more juicy. When you try to stifle a public official, you know what? The juice runs dry. He's no more juicy because you want that is juicy, that is able to produce. How can you have a cow that is supposed to be giving you milk and is not? What would you do with a cow? Eat it, because it's not beneficial to you.
Okay. Let's take a look at the 70-page document.
Excellent.
I needed us to have that background.
I have actually mentioned some of them.
Yes. I needed us to have that background for the fact that
Yes.
the AFTA Secretariat is being launched today.
Exactly.
A lot of things happening around AFTA despite the pandemic.
Exactly.
So I know you've been taking like snippets of what is here because I've gone through this document. But like I said, it's a 70-page document, so quite a lot in it.
Quite a lot to
yes. The first few, I think the chapter 1, the objectives and the priorities, you've talked a bit about that in what you said. You've also talked a bit about the policy mixes on COVID-19. The essence of social insecurity, recovery, and all of that. So now let's go. You've talked about COVID-19, a disruptor of free trade, including AFTA. Now let's go to chapter 3. Let me see. Yes, trade policy, foreign policy, and national security. Though
which I actually
yes, you looked at it a bit, but I still want us to dwell here a bit. Like I said earlier, you see what's happening right now between the U.S. and China. You see, President Trump has signed an executive order to ban ByteDance. Say, we don't want TikTok. We don't want this. So it's about trade.
It's about trade.
Because the U.S., under Trump, has always said that there's been this trade imbalance between China. China gains more from America, and America doesn't gain as much from. So where does this put us? Because in this, your policy trade, I must say, let me ask you this question quickly before I go to this. Is this our trade policy?
No. Okay. Can I speak a lot on that?
Yes.
I'm sorry, a bit on that.
Yes.
The Nigerian Office for Trade Negotiations was created to fill a gap. The government saw a need and created NOTN to fill that gap. So we're created to lead, manage, and coordinate negotiations and related trade negotiations. That's trade negotiations and related trade negotiations. So to that extent, therefore, what we are expected to do, just like journalists are expected, is to become agenda-setting organization for stakeholders to engage with. Because we cannot go for negotiation if we don't set the agenda for discussion. So unless there's a misunderstanding somewhere, those who may not understand would think this is not a policy. It's set perspective and insight. Opinion. If you don't like it, you dump it. If you like it, apply it if you want to. So what we've done with this is to give the platform to trigger discussions. Okay. We can no more operate under a 2002 expired trade policy in 21st century. we need to give them some bites, some information to relate with. We need to provide it to be able to engage the stakeholders. So if someone comes and say, NOTN is writing a trade policy, I don't know. I mean, I just don't, because organizations such as ours, not just in Nigeria and Africa, all over the world, are meant to set the agenda for discussion. But if we don't set the agenda, therefore, I'm just going to stand up from my office, go for a negotiation, get something out of my head, and negotiate and sign it, and come back and say, take. That is not the way it should be.
Okay. Now you just put that straight, so that I needed to educate my viewers on that,
please,
so that they don't say this is a trade policy.
It's not a trade policy.
It's
launched. Not. It's a misunderstanding. Yes. Anyone that says it's a trade policy doesn't understand what journal is about.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now let's take a look at this trade policy and foreign policy.
Yes.
They go hand in hand. I just explained what is happening in U.S. and China. Do you think that we really stand a chance? And if we are trading with other countries, are we putting our foreign policy in place? This question might be to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, but I know that you're also part of, at least you can't go negotiate when you don't know what your competitiveness is about, what your USP is about, what you stand to gain. So how important is that what you wrote in Chapter 3, trade policy, foreign policy, and additional national security? I wanted us to take a look at that before we move on.
These are linked. Because, trade is the butter and bread of any country. We are fortunate that we have oil in Nigeria. But oil is not sustainable. It's going to dry at some point. We're going to dry it. Even if it doesn't dry, the U.S. has oil. But it's still trade massively. So we need to look at, we need to diversify away into non-oil exports. We need to be able to say, you know what, let's not over-depend on oil. For instance, in agriculture now, there's a marked improvement in agriculture today. I eat Nigerian rice all the time. Before now, we were importing rice massively into Nigeria. But now, because the current government has given priority to the fact that, yes, we need to eat our own rice. What does that mean in terms of foreign policy and national security wise? Now, this is what it means. It means we have to define a relationship with the border countries like Benin Republic, Republic of Benin. That's how trade policy can influence your foreign policy stance. Not just with your neighbors, but also with other countries around the world. You tell Benin Republic, if we have to engage as neighboring countries, as brothers and sisters, this is what I want you to do for me. I want you to ensure that your borders are properly policed. I want you to ensure that you put together functional, effective, modernized, 21st century border policing infrastructure in place. So that, and I also want you to make sure that you don't bring rice from Thailand and then rebag them in Benin Republic and send them to Nigeria. And I also want to tell Benin Republic, I said, you know what, Benin Republic, if you don't do this, I will close my border against you. That's how foreign policy and trade works. That's the connection. Now let me give another connection on this. Now, with the massive production of rice nationally, what do you have? You have massive growth of jobs in that sector. Now, if you have jobs that are created and people are properly are gainfully employed, do you know what happens? Then you have less restiveness. You have less Boko Harams. You have less Niger Delta, whatever they call them. I don't know what they call it, frankly. You have less Niger Delta warriors, I would say.
You have less restiveness.
Less restiveness, because people are gainfully employed. And also, if you have in place sound foreign policy that you say, you know what, for instance, China, you cannot have one directional inflow of trade from your country to Nigeria, and then Nigeria does not have access to your markets. Now, can someone tell me, in all fairness to China, my sister, in all fairness to China, can they tell me how many Nigerian goods are sold in China? In all fairness. Because I'm not averse, I'm not against them.
It should be reciprocal.
But it needs to be reciprocal. We need to understand
But for
that.
it to be reciprocal, we also have to play our games right. We also need that our market has to be competitive. We need to produce. We need, so that we are not just a dumping ground.
Yes.
So we need to get our acts in order.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. We need to get our acts in order. But what we are saying is that, for instance, the general system of preferences, which we have within the EU market, that allows our products, our goods to come into the EU market on a non-reciprocal tariff arrangement. That is, we don't pay tariffs when they go in. Now you don't you don't bog that down with unnecessary standard quality and specification requirements. You don't, because if you are going to say that this is how we want to support developing countries to get into our markets, then help us build capacity in that area of standards, in that area of qualification, that area of specification, so that when our products gets into your market, that we wouldn't have to grapple with whether we meet your standards requirement or not. That needs to be done. And so when for instance, I think this is one key area that I need to emphasize. As we prepare to go to engage with the AFCFTA, we need to get our quality, standard specification framework right.
Which is chapter 12 here.
Because it's key, because this is key. We need to get it right. Now, you need to ensure that if you are producing facial marks, that they are globally standardized quality, acceptable everywhere in the world. It's good that we are building capacity. It's good that we are building capability. But also we have to, can our own facial marks be accepted in the US markets? This is important. This came up during one of the AGOA events. Now, yes, you're building capacity in this, but your body protective suits, do they meet that requirement in the US? If they get into US market, can they be sold? Can they be accepted? Can they be bought? Can they be used by medical doctors? Are they capable of actually protecting medical doctors or paramedicals or vice versa? So that is one area we really need to get. And my office is working very seriously with these bodies to see that we get all of these things right.
Okay.
Yes.
I know we've talked now, all what you've been saying has dwelt on this document.
Exactly.
But the only area we've not talked about is chapter 11, which is, chapter 11, which is very interesting to me. Empowerment of women in trade.
Absolutely fantastic place for me to talk about.
So
yes.
If you take a look at it, women, we are about 50% of Nigeria's population. You have a lot of women in agriculture. And about close to 50% of those of the women, about 30% perhaps are employed in the formal sector.
Exactly.
So how can we empower women to take part in trade?
I think I've mentioned some of the ways that this can be done. But if you look at this document, you see we talked about domestic violence. There's a place we mentioned domestic violence. What the COVID-19 has done, not only in Nigeria, but in Africa and all over the world, is that it has spiked up domestic violence. Because people, because partners, spouses are left alone in their house. And because of incessant, constant relationships, seeing each other, wake up, you see the same face every day, and you're not able to move out. So it creates pressure. But again, there are other ways of exhausting pressures. You can take a walk. You can go for a drive. You can play sports. You can do something. Domestic violence, I think we need to do more when it comes to that, in terms of policy-wise. We need to do more. That it doesn't just become a normal thing to beat a woman or vice versa, or to beat a man and then inside and just say it's a normal. It's not normal. It's not mature. It's not nice. It's not nice at all. People need to know that. And women need to be allowed to, to have their flow of juices come out. They need to be allowed to work. If a woman, I can't, to be very frank with you, I wouldn't marry somebody who is not working. Because I want her to, because if I see her every day, I'm going to be bored. I go up to,
you want her to explore her
talents.
talents.
I want her to explore talent. I want to be able to discuss with her in an intelligible. I want her to engage me. I want her to ask me questions. So you allow her to work. And she goes to work, and then in the home, there is an equal relationship. There is no unequal, subordinate relationship in a matrimonial. If you want to survive in that, if you want to love your wife and your wife loves you, there should be that balance. Your wife works, you work, and then you all go back, just go to work and come back, go to the kitchen and cook together. Don't sit in the, I'm sorry, men will hate me for this. Don't sit and read papers. Go to work with your wife and cook your food and eat.
So what you're saying in essence is that there should be like a female-focused action plan.
Yeah,
beyond.
Yes, I'm coming there. I was just trying to be a bit, to ease up pressure. Now, when it comes to ramping up women participation in trade, you have to build capacity. First of all, capacity building is very important. You have to teach them, for instance, maybe these are women in the local, you have to also show them how to save. Because it's not just getting the money. And then when you get the money, you go and buy all the most expensive ashoke, buy the most expensive hair. You've got to know that you've got to trade with that money.
Financial literacy?
Financial discipline. And you've got to multiply the money you've got, because no bank will give you money and then you are unable to pay back that money with the interest. And then there's got to be, there've got to be certain kinds of policy that allows women to get money at a particular interest, women in trade, particularly those in the rural areas. You have to, you would be surprised that women in rural areas, they have only 10,000 naira. I don't know how they do it. But they will send their children to school with that 10,000 naira that they have, and they will still manage with that, multiply that. But again, there needs to be a way of honing that, of upping or of ramping up, of enhancing that capacity. Because women can really save money. That I'm aware from experience. They can save money a lot.
And invest.
And invest, So they need to be taught how to invest, how to manage money, and how to be able to pay back the interest. And again, banks would have to say, you know what, if we are giving money to a man for, say, 6% interest, we should give to the woman 5.5. I'm not saying that there should be discrimination, no. But all I'm saying is that this is the way to encourage participation in trade. And they also have to teach them, proper packaging of their products, because you have good packaging, you have good things that they produce in the villages. They produce this chin-chin. If you produce chin-chin and bring it and just sell it to me like that in a basin, I wouldn't buy it. But if you package it properly and put a label, Chichi chin-chin, or Miriam chin-chin, or that sort of thing,
So it comes back.
Or Abigail. So it comes back. So I'm good. If you tell me, you put this in a supermarket, and I'm going to buy it. I buy it. I go to the supermarket. I buy things. I go to the supermarket. I buy, like, for instance, I buy things like okra in the supermarket. I'm saying it because it's well packaged.
Yeah.
Okay? I buy vegetables because it's well packaged. Anyway. Thank you.
Okay. I think we'll leave it at that, because I think we've done a bit of justice to the roadmap that was launched by your office just a few days ago.
Thank you.
And for my viewers, if you're interested in learning more, they can find this online on our website. On your website.
On our website, on a Twitter account, everywhere. And one thing that I want the public
very
to
quickly, 10 seconds.
One thing that I want the public to, they can always engage with us directly.
Okay.
They can send us email, Twitter, and all. They want to know a lot of things about it.
Okay. All right, that's the much we can take. I've been speaking with Victor Lehmann, the Acting Chief Trade Negotiator, as well as the Director General, Nigerian Office for Trade Negotiations. That's the much we can take. I'm handing you over to Ihotu Odo. She's in the news studio to take us further with AIT Report. Hello, Ihotu. I'll see you all
Nancy.
tomorrow. Be the best version of yourself. Thank you for watching our video. Please hit the subscribe button below, turn on post notification to follow all our updates.